What's your name?
Alaina O'Connor.
O'Connor. How are you, Alaina?
I'm good. I feel great right now.
Yeah, so what happened?
I finished my book.
Tell me more.
It's an idea that I've had running through my head for about 10 years, and I've tried to get it out in different forms. I've done a screenplay, I've tried to format it into like a trilogy, miniseries. Screenwriting is what I know, and I've never tried a novel before. It was something that I didn't think that I could do. So being able to finish it in a weekend is awesome. It makes me feel really good.
So literally 3 days. This is your first Tom Bird retreat?
Yeah, this is my first.
Wow.
So.
When did you first hear about Tom?
I've heard about him through a friend of my mom's who also attended one of his retreats in the past, and she recommended him to me. She knows that I'm a writer and I want to try to get something published, so she suggested that I come to this retreat, and I'm glad she did.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, yeah, how do you feel? What shifted, if you can just remember, I mean, what do you feel right now?
Catharsis. Yeah, I feel like I just expelled something from inside that's been sort of sitting inside me for a long time. It's almost like, I suppose if it's like giving birth, I don't have kids, but I feel like I just had one.
Yeah.
So there's a euphoria there, there's an excitement, like, my heart's racing. It's that kind of thing.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
and I've had similar feelings before in the past, like when I've written screenplays, but this is a little bit more intense because, yeah. So that this feeling is familiar to me, but I've never felt it in this like kind of intense way before, and I think it was just because of the process that I went through during this entire weekend.
So, it sounds like the birth and the completion is, such a relief.
Yeah.
Is that the biggest surprise you experienced in less than 3 days?
Well, I think the biggest surprise for me was that I actually did it. I mean, I guess, in my head coming into this, I thought, well, I'll give it a try. I don't think that I can write a novel in a week, like 3 days. It seems like a daunting task. And today, actually, the final day was the toughest for me.
How so?
I found myself not doubting myself, but just feeling like I didn't know where to go, and I couldn't see how I was going to end the novel. I kept overthinking everything, and instead of coming from a place inside, I was coming from my head. And I had to really work hard to get out of that space and back into the space that I had been in 2 days prior. So once I was able to get over that sort of hurdle, then this last 45 minutes to an hour when I was writing was really just the spirit went through me, and I finished, and I knew when it was over, and I knew where to end, and it just felt great.
Wow.
So.
Wow. And had you finished screenplay before on this with the story?
No, I've never been able to complete it.
Finish.
Yeah. And part of that was, I think, that the method that I used before, in screenwriting, it's about structure, and it's about, hitting certain plot points at certain places. And I think that I always am in that rhythm when it comes to writing. And with this process, it was more about, don't think about where you're going so much. You just have to kind of feel it and let it flow through you. And I think in that sense, it was, I was able to get everything out that I wanted to get out that I was never able to before. And Also, you know, I've plotted this story out in previous versions that I've tried to, you know, when I've written it as a screenplay and so forth and so on. But I purposefully tried not to think about the way that I wanted it to go before, and I ended up in a completely different place than I had tried to in the past. And I guess that was another surprising thing that I from this weekend, is I think that I wrote a better story this way than I would have in a different format.
Nice,
Mm-hmm.
nice. Thoughts you had, you know, prior to coming here, and what would you say to someone that doesn't think they could do it? You know, how did the space
Mm-hmm.
and the focus and the support, you know, and Tom Bird's method, how did that manifest?
I didn't know a lot about Tom Bird before I came here, but I don't know, I'm an open person, so I'm always open to new experiences and things like that. So I came into this completely open-minded. I did a lot of the prep work that we do before we come here, and so I was aware of what this was going to be like intellectually, but actually going through it as a completely different experience. I found that the most I don't know, important thing or the thing that helped me the most through this was just the energy in the room. There's a lot of support there, and that's something, as a writer, sometimes it's a really lonely, isolated kind of, you know, project, and being in a room with people who are all going through the same process, who are all having the same kind of feelings, or maybe not even the same feelings, but the same kind of, they're going through the same thing. You're able to support each other and lift each other up and keep each other in this rhythm. And that was something that I've never experienced before. And I was able to like get out of my own way, so to speak, and just allow myself to do what I feel like I've always wanted to do, I guess. I think that Tom teaches you to just look within and let the spirit guide you to where you need to go. And that, I think, is what was the most helpful part of it for me. That and having support. And I really feel like I connected with a lot of people this weekend. And I was able to switch to my right brain, because I'm usually always in my left brain, and I was able to be creative in this way, and that was that was good, you know, that was really good.
So what just happened? You finished your book, and Tom had you do a little check or exercise in terms of your next projects or next book?
A circle drawing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what was that about? Like,
he had me do a circle drawing on a piece of paper and write. I forget what he had me write, but he had me write a phrase over and over again to think about the next book. How many books do I have in me, and when am I going to write the next book, basically.
nice.
And I do think that writing quickly without thinking you just have to get it out, you know. And then once you figure out that you can do it, then you can, you know, move through the rest of the process and go on to your next book and the next one and the next one. So it doesn't feel as daunting as it had before. I feel like I can write another one too, because
It sounds like you're gonna keep on writing.
Yeah, yeah, I am.
And
yeah.
even more inspired and more probably effective. You know, dare I even say that? But you know, they say giving birth for the first time is the most challenging.
Yeah.
And like you experienced today with the ending, you know, it's huge, because once you do it, you can do it again.
Yeah.
So that's great. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.